The location signals a last-minute change to the ticket. Josh Shapiro is Jewish, which CNN described as too risky for the Democrats' radical base. Watch.
Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro is being discussed as one of Harris's potential running mates. He also endorsed her tonight. In your view, what are the pros and cons for putting him on the ticket?
Well, he's certainly under consideration. I know that from key Harris allies. He's a first-term governor. He's Jewish. There could be some risks in putting him on the ticket.
Risks, you say? Former Arkansas governor and presidential candidate Mike Huckabee joining me now. You know, it's clear the Harris campaign had their backs against the wall on this. Shapiro may have been the lesser of two evils in their mind, but as many Jewish Democrats have told me over the years, the new home of anti-Semitism in America is the Democrat Party, so they bench Shapiro, Governor. What do you make of the pick and the man they passed over?
You know, Josh Shapiro is a very articulate guy. He seems to have handled several crises in Pennsylvania quite well, but he's Jewish, and he actually served in the IDF at one point in his life. Something I think he ought to be proud of, but apparently these days in the Democrat Party, that makes you persona non grata. You can't be able to be that sympathetic toward Jews and toward Israel. And it's tragic because it used to be that really, I think Jews felt most at home at the Democrat Party. Not anymore. There is a level of organized and unapologetic anti-Semitism within the Democrat Party. Look at Rashida Tlaib and the rest of the members of the so-called squad. These are crazy people, and they're anti-Semitic, they're anti-Jew, they're anti-Israel, they're disgusting. So whatever reason, I think that probably played into Kamala Harris saying, yeah, it's too risky because I don't want to lose those Muslim votes in Michigan or Minnesota.
Right, and there's a significant number. I've seen wild estimates, anywhere from 15 to 25% of the Democrat voting base is made up of those who are not keen on Israel, not keen on Jews. Governor, MAGA War Room is calling out Governor Tim Walz, for signing a bill that required schools to provide tampons in the boys' bathrooms. This is the party that dares to call Senator J.D. Vance weird. Your thoughts?
Yeah, weird is being a Marine, going to Iraq, having a family, going to church every Sunday, working your way through college and law school. That's weird. But believing that little boys can pretend to be girls and you surgically alter them, or little girls can pretend to be boys and you mutilate their bodies when they're teenagers that can never be reversed, that's not weird. This is Orwellian. I mean, it just is out of control. Look, Tim Walz is compatible with Kamala Harris. They're both very left of center. But what I hope Republicans do is I hope they don't spend all their time talking about the label of left versus right. We just need to articulate the views these people have. Tim Walz is a guy who said that socialism is just another way of being neighborly. He's the guy who signed the most radical abortion law in all of America. You know, even people who believe there ought to be some basis for some abortions, I'm not one of them, but some people believe that, they don't even go with this idea that you can abort the baby up until the very moment of birth. You know, when people talk about reproductive health, the one thing that does is it eliminates reproduction. That's what that does. So there's no reproductive or health involved.
Yeah, exactly. Ask the baby how healthy he or she would feel after that procedure. Here is Mr. Walz, just a few weeks after the Trump assassination attempt, calling him and his supporters a, quote, threat to democracy. Watch.
These guys are just weird. That's who they are. So it isn't much else. Don't give them the power. Look, are they a threat to democracy? Yes. Are they going to take our rights away? Yes. Are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. The fascists depend on fear. The fascists depend on us going back. But we're not afraid of weird people. No. We're a little bit creeped out, but we're not afraid.
Yeah, as he dishes up fear. The Democrats say they have to save democracy by stopping voting and giving voters no choice. And this is how Democrats crank down the rhetoric after a failed assassination attempt. It's striking, isn't it?
Well, it's worse than that. Chris, let's just remember that the Democrats who are in power now, they're the ones who weaponize the justice system. It's not just that they've gone after Donald Trump to keep him off the ballot, whether through secretaries of state or through these sham trials. That's a horrible thing to have happen. That's a threat to democracy. That's abuse of government. That's fascism, if you want to call it that. It's when government begins to decide who the winners and the losers are going to be. But 4 years of Donald Trump, he never put a 75-year-old grandmother in prison because she protested abortion at a clinic or because she favored abortion. The records are clear. You have two different administrations, put them side by side. One has abused the power of government, phony charges against Trump, Russia collusion, phone call to Ukrainians, impeaching him twice. One party's done that. That's the party Tim Walz is thinking is saving democracy. And the other party is one that respected the rule of law and actually believed that we should go through the proper procedures. I kind of like that version better, and that's why I'm going to be voting for Donald Trump, and I hope the rest of America will wise up and do the same thing.
Well, you made allusion to this quote, and you and I, because we're conservatives, we'll get accused of making stuff up. And because whenever we quote Democrats correctly or bring up their record, it's attacking Democrats. Let's not forget the comments made during the, quote, White Dudes for Harris campaign event. Listen.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
I don't even know what the heck that means, but he really is telling us who he is. Yes, Governor?
He really is, and his idea of socialism is like being a good neighbor. Well, it's one thing if you want to be a good neighbor because you want to send something over to your neighbor and help them out, but when the government comes and rips it out of your pocket, something you've worked hard for, something you were paid to do, and then they turn around and give it to somebody that didn't get up until the crack of noon today, that's not being a neighbor. That's being robbed by the government to give to somebody who just didn't want to work as hard as you did. And that is socialism. Socialism is distributing other people's money to people that shouldn't be having it. If I want to give money to people, and I do it through my church, I do it through a number of charities that my wife and I support, that's being a neighbor. But if you reach into my pocket against my will and you take what I have and what I've worked for, and you decide where it goes, and worse, if you're the government and you decide, then that's pure theft, and it has nothing to do with being a neighbor. It has to do with government becoming God. I don't need another God. I have one. I like him a whole lot better than I like government, and I'm going to stick with the God I have, not the God of government.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better myself. I've always said that socialism is charity for the lazy. Having the government confiscate the other people's stuff, and yeah, it's charity for the lazy because Democrats can't even be bothered to make out a check themselves and give to the organizations or the people they want to give to. No, let the government do it. I gave it the office. Governor Mike Huckabee, always a pleasure to catch up with you, sir. Come back soon.